Hello, Simon and Matt here from IGN, and we're here at Gamescom, and we've just played an hour of Monster Hunter Wilds. We should note we're going to have a full preview on site soon from one of our Monster Hunter experts at IGN, but we're just going to do a quick little reaction to what we played, because we have played a good chunk of Monster Hunter World in years gone by, but now we've got Monster Hunter Wilds. I keep mixing those two up, but I got it right there. And I think the safest thing to say about it is, if you liked Monster Hunter World, you're going to like Monster Hunter Wilds. Because from the chunk we played, I couldn't see too many huge differences, but there are two key differences, which I think you can run us through when you set up one of the missions we played, Matt.
Yeah, so we were tasked by kind of like the Monster Hunter committee to head out and fight a Doshaguma, which is kind of like we saw it in the original trailer. It's a massive bear slash ox slash woolly mammoth kind of
Just a big
creature.
hairy boy.
Yeah,
big hairy boy.
A real big hairy boy with a crowd of monsters with him. And I guess that starts there's a little bit of changes to the ecosystem around these monsters. And we had to separate the alpha from his pack. That started with basically throwing dung at them.
Just throwing loads of poo at them. For some reason, I didn't know the science behind it, but throwing poo at monsters makes them not stick with the alpha. I don't know what that is, if they're poo-phobes.
Apparently so. So we separated the alpha from the pack, which meant that we got to go into the classic style Monster Hunter. You're on a chase through a region. Obviously, Monster Hunter Wild has changed into an open world design. What I would say in this quest, that didn't seem to make a huge amount of difference, but the chase is much longer than they were previously because you now have a mount, which is this fella here.
Not this man. This big dinosaur bird thing.
Now, this is a Seikret, which is kind of like a bird, almost chocobo style thing from Final Fantasy. And you can ride this through the chase against the monster. And you can even attack from mounted positions. So you're even able to swing your switch axe or any weapon that you have against the monster as you're chasing it. But then obviously it stops to have kind of like those almost arena style battles with the monster. In which, in the first instance we were playing, triggered a weather storm, which is a little bit interesting.
Yeah, the weather storm we got is, well, a weather storm is exactly what I said. There was lightning coming down, the sky just turned blue, and it looks like you can almost lure the monster into areas where the lightning may strike, and it did big damage. I mean, I was using the dual blade weapons, which, you know, are quick hitters, but they're doing like 3 or 4 HP a hit, whereas these big lightning strikes are doing like 160 a pop, I think, which was, you know, pretty handy when you're trying to take down a big hairy boy. But I had a lot of fun using that weather. The weather systems, along with the mount, seem to be the big headline features we've experienced so far. Like you said, we haven't seen quite how open world the design is yet. It felt very much like one of the big open zones from World so far. Yeah. I'm intrigued to see how that develops, but yeah, the weather was cool. There's also like almost, we're in a very sandy area and almost like slipped through into like, what do you call it? Big like sand hole? I don't know, like sand whirlpool. Then I had to get all the way back to the top where the Doshaguma was. Doshaguma. I keep saying Doshugama. Doshaguma. Big hairy boy.
As in with Monster Hunter Worlds, though, there does have the elements where the monsters will almost bump into each other.
Yes.
We had a sequence where the monster that we were hunting, it's almost like the sandworms from Dune kind of appeared. And we had sort of like an excellent, what felt like it was a pre-scripted event, but maybe there were more organic elements to it. But where this monster wrapped itself around the monster that we were hunting. And we kind of got to stand back for a little bit and watch this monster brawl. It was kind of like a Godzilla versus Kong style throwdown. And that, you know, is returning from Monster Hunter World, but it feels like maybe with the more open areas and the way that the different kind of biomes link together, we might be able to introduce creatures that wouldn't normally be seeing each other.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of touched on it. It felt very much like Monster Hunter World at this stage of play. We only played a small section of it, but I'm excited to play more. I like that you know, that typical Monster Hunter cycle of wearing down a big animal, chasing it across like a vast desert. To take down the Doshaguma, I actually utilized the big, large explosive barrels, just put a couple of those in the way. Okay. It swiped with its big bear claw, exploded, and that dealt with it. Got the big Slade screen there, and yeah, I had a lovely time taking down a big hairy boy. Did you have a good time playing it, Matt?
I did have a good time, yeah. It's definitely more... I wasn't sure if this would be the big evolutionary step again in the way that World was a huge evolutionary step for the series. this one maybe doesn't feel quite as significant, at least from what we've played so far, maybe when we see more of this open world, we might see how that factors in. I think what we can say is from what we have seen, this isn't open world as in it hasn't suddenly turned into Horizon and that just happens to have Monster Hunter fights in it. It definitely feels like they stitched all of the sequences from world together, all of those zones, and that is probably what it's like. And if that's the next kind of like proto-evolutionary step for kind of Monster Hunter before we get to whatever comes next, I'm kind of fine with that. Like, Monster Hunter is good, and having more of that with just that weather and the mounts and those few other sprinklings, I'm kind of fine with that.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. It's more Monster Hunter. That's kind of what I wanted. Taking down big beasts. I like taking down big beasts. Dragon's Dogma 2 got a bit of that to it. Capcom, at the moment, may be the king of taking down giant beasts.
Maybe.
We'll find out when Monster Hunter World arrives in 2025, but for now, I'm looking forward to it.